Okay, we're ready? Right, I'd like to welcome everyone to the local pension board for Greenwich. The first thing that we need to do is to elect a chair for the pension board, as Nick Williams is no longer on the committee. Do we have any nominations?
Yes, we do, Chair. I nominate you.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you, Leo. Okay. Can I suggest, although it's not in our terms of reference, so I will speak about the terms of reference later because there's an issue with the minutes. I would think it would be helpful if we appoint a vice chair. So if I miss a meeting, this will not be onerous. I think I've missed one meeting in 10 years. But I think it would be helpful if we had a vice chair appointed who could take the meetings. I'd like to, as Anne-Marie's on longer, I'd like to nominate Anne-Marie for that.
Yeah, seconded.
Thank you, Leo. Okay, now that's not an official capacity, as I say, it's not in the terms of reference having a vice chair, but that's something that we need to be updating, which I'll talk about later. Okay, right, thank you for the guidance notes. We obviously don't have any apologies for absence following the sad passing of Alistair Kidd. And we do need to have an update at some point on when the process will commence for selecting a new employee representatives. We have an item of urgent business, which is item 11, and I hope you've all had a chance to look at that relating to the McLeod issue, and that's item 11 on the agenda. Are there any updated declarations of interest? Julian, sorry.
Not updated declaration of interest, but just in terms of that item, the last minute item, can I please ask if it can be viewed after item 9 on the agenda?
Declaration of interest?
No, sorry, the item on McLeod, if we can
yes,
pencil that after item 9.
Okay, yeah.
So after the pension panel meeting activities for March, after that.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fine, and there is an urgent decision to be made on that from what I've read. Okay, thanks, Julian. Okay, right, in terms of the, give me 2 seconds to find the right page in here, the minutes of the meeting from the 17th of March, I have got a couple of things that I want to mention. Just bear with me, I'll find out, I've made a note of them. What page are the minutes on? It's the yellow one. Oh, right, okay. Yeah, it's an intelligence test. I'm failing. Okay. Right. Just a little thing. It says present councillors Anne-Marie, Cousins, Kidd and Steptoe. Obviously, myself and Alistair are employees' representatives rather than councillors. Okay. Has anyone got any other items of accuracy for the minutes? No? Okay. The only thing that I did want to bring up, it's not so much accuracy, but it did refer in the minutes to having to the chair looking at the terms of reference and being an agenda item on this agenda, but it's not there. I did see on one of the further plans that was something for the, I believe, is it the September or the December meeting? I'm not sure. I can't remember. Obviously, it's something I've been pushing for a long time to have a look at that. Can we, it's not on the agenda here, we've got a lot to get through, including some important stuff. Can we put terms of reference definitely onto the next agenda? Okay, and can we work to update those? Okay, is that all right?
September.
Yeah, September 1. Yeah. Okay, thanks. Right, so it's on the September work plan, so let's make sure that's on the agenda, and perhaps we could have a report as to possible changes. Would that be okay? Yeah?
Yep, that's absolutely fine, Chair.
Okay. Thank you, Julian. Right, moving on. So are we all happy Claire, forward the minutes. Okay, right, I will sign those then in a moment. We've had the training, so thank you very much for that. Okay, so we can move on to item 6, the Pension Board Business Plan. Members to note the work undertaken by the board during 24-25 and the plan for 25-26. Do we have any questions, thoughts? Or are people happy? Yes. Anne-Marie, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I think for me, I'm a bit concerned that we don't seem to make a big or an obvious issue of work that we've done on the divestment questions and, for example, even with the pension panel, having the Greenwich Palestine Action Group make a presentation. To me, those are key things because it's what's current, it's what a vast amount of the community is on about. But it's sort of, we're not proud of it. And then you've got like local authorities like Lewisham making a big thing that, oh, they're going to meet with them. And I'm thinking, well, we've already met with ours, you know, so I just don't understand. We're not, it might be a small thing, but often with risk assessments and so on, it's the big, small thing that will make a big difference. So we've really got to acknowledge that we have done that. So can we?
Yeah, thanks.
Thanks.
What is the suggestion in terms of how we acknowledge that? Is it included in our annual report when we publish that?
It's about audit trails, though, isn't it? Sorry, Chair. When we're not mentioning it, will it get forgotten? And I think this is part of the difficulty. We've just got to be constantly ticking boxes of what things that we have done. There's lots that we aren't doing and can't do, or we're slow on doing. So when we're achieving things, we just need to constantly acknowledge it so that somebody doesn't think that we're not doing anything when we are. Thank you.
Okay, Julian, you were presenting that report that I didn't ask you and I wasn't following your notes properly. Is there anything else you want to say about the board's business plan?
No, Chair. I think you covered off. Just to say it includes also the work that we did previously for the year, but also the work ahead. We're always happy to add any agenda item onto that work as we develop. As I previously mentioned, the pension fund is going through some complex change. I've mentioned that in the panel due to the pensions bill at the moment that's going through Parliament. So there might be other work streams that come to the board as we understand a bit more around the bill.
Thank you, Julian. Any other questions for Julian? Okay, are we all happy to note the report and the work undertaken? Lovely. Okay, thanks. Right, item 7, annual report of the board. And the purpose of this is to agree the annual report of the pension board for 24-25. Julian, that's to be presented by you. If there's anything you need to say.
No, just to mention that this is the 10th year that the board has been in operation now, so quite a significant piece of time, and the board has undertaken quite a lot of work over that time and developed the interaction between the panel. And as of today, we had about a couple of observers from the board that sit in on the panel meeting and ask questions in the panel meeting. So for me, is what the board has set out to do in terms of reference. It is doing that. Just also mention, included in the board report, we also include tribute to Alistair, a much valued member representative who is dedicated and contributed to the board and will fondly be remembered. So we include that in that report to the panel. As always, Chair, always welcome any board members that want to present that to the panel at the next meeting in September.
Thank you, Julian. Yes, I'd like to echo your sentiments that you put in. Thank you for putting in there about Alistair's contribution to the board. Any further questions? Yep.
Thank you, Chair, if I may. Just to make the point, so you see now we come to the report, there's nothing in there about some of those sensitive activities that we have covered. And I think it is important. Things aren't resolved. We're still a long way to go. We're never going to meet, possibly for now, the expectations, but we've done something. and I think we should acknowledge that. And I would like to second the fact that it was pleasing to note that you've made reference to Alistair Kidd's character and his contributions to the board. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Many thanks, Anne-Marie. Okay, are we happy then to agree the annual report of the Pension Board?
Are we going to agree pending any additions?
Okay, yeah, pending any additions, agreed? Right, thanks, Anne-Marie. Okay, moving on, item 8, risk register. And our aim is to note the section of the pension risk register that covers employment and investment risks, which is Appendix A. This will be presented by Julian.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So the report really supports the board ongoing governance responsibility. So the risk register, it's a vital tool for managing the fund exposure to risk. It assesses the likelihood and impact of potential risk events, outlining controls in place, and assessing the overall risk score. So the register normally covers 7 categories of risk, but today the board is just focusing on the employer and investment risk. These are reviewed quarterly by the board, so it's a standing item every meeting, and with the full risk register going to the Pension and Investment and Administration panel at this March meeting, 26. At present, there's no risk flag for this section of the report for senior management to monitor. But happy to take any questions, Chair.
Okay, do you have any questions for Julian about the employment and investment risks section?
If I may again, Chair.
Yep, Anne-Marie.
It's possibly more me thinking. Going forwards, and the fact that London Civ is effectively going to be controlling what's going on, I see our role diminishing. It does worry me because, to me, that's a risk because government's managing, you know, there's a law, so the government sets the law and it's going to London Civ. But effectively, government's managing large pots of money doesn't bring me a whole wealth of, oh, everything's going to be okay. It almost looks like it's seen as another cash cow. And so what I'm worried about now is cash cow risks, that if somebody says, oh, well, the pensions are doing well, we'll milk off some of it for something else, which is always a risk, because maybe in 10 years we'll get it back, and then in 10 years you don't. So I'm sort of worried about less and less control locally and more centralized control. And then well, let me let you answer that. I might have another one, once again, about the Palestinian situation. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Marie. Go on. Go ahead.
Thank you for that question. I absolutely agree with you. We need to monitor that London Civ risk as a whole. So I would expect that creating a bit more of a section in terms of the risk. But as mentioned, in terms of the pension bill, we really try to understand the different stream of works and how it will work going forward. And as you mentioned, around what is the board responsibility coming into that new age, you know, to define that. But yeah, I'll know that one, and I will keep a close eye. I mean, the risk register is a live document, so whenever we see something pops up, we'll go into the risk register and update it and keep the score live. So.
Follow up on that again, actually. In terms of how you work, Julian, are you able to raise things and challenge, or really is it a matter of, well, we just have to wait and see what we're told is going to happen next? I know it's difficult in regulated fields. That's a decision, you've got no say. But I'm just wondering just how much input and influence do you really feel you can bring to bear? Thanks.
No, thank you for the question. Officers do have influence in terms of the London Civ, so we have a mechanism by way we meet with our RM and we can voice our concerns. So after panel meeting was been set up panel and board, I voiced that back to them and just said these are the concerns of our panel and board. Also, our Section 151 Director of Resourcing have meetings with Dean, who's the Chief Exec Officer of the London Civ, and he voices it at our level. Councillor Olu sits on the board as well as a shareholder, and he can voice it. So my role is really to feed my concerns to them, really, and they can voice it at a high level. But I do have a direct relationship with the London Civ where I can voice that. Just lastly as well, across London, my peer, we have meetings regularly, I think every 2 months, where we meet up and we have these discussions. So not just Greenwich views, but understand what Lewisham is doing, understand what it's doing and what the concern is, and we feed that back as a group, as a one voice back to the London Civ as well. Yeah.
Okay, lovely. Thank you for that. And finally, if I may, Chair, this we're constantly the divestment question just hasn't gone away. It's not about to go away by the looks of things. Have we adequately covered that in the risk? Because to me, that is about a risk. Or how do you see that what we've got here adequately covers where we are at the moment? Thank you.
Yep, so I don't think we have a reference here on ESG risk, which will partly covers that on RI investment policies. Is on page 90 on the pack, ESG risk. So as you said, the divestment issue is not going to go away. It's probably going to stay around for a while. At the moment, the panel is about reviewing the RI policy, and that's one way of them to understand and addressing that risk of divestment. They have a current time frame around review now in September, so they want to bring back the RI policy in September to review. So at the current moment, we're working with the panel to review that risk. Yeah.
I think when you come back in September, it just needs to be overtly referred to. I think sometimes things get hidden. So yes, it comes under the governance and so on, but things just get hidden. So I do think it needs to be overtly referred to if that's possible. Thank you.
Hi, Julian. The only question I had is to do with risk 112, systemic risk. Well, we've got a US president imposing tariffs, unimposing tariffs, making agreements, not making agreements, whatever he feels like doing when he wakes up that morning. What are we doing? What can we do to try and reduce that those risks of volatility in markets?
Thank you, Chair. I'll mention one thing and I'll pass it over to Kenny. Just give him a bit of time to think about this answer. Just to mention, in terms of that risk that you mentioned, we did increase the level. You could see the arrow going up from the last time it was reviewed. Our risk has increased. So we have acknowledged that the geopolitical environment has increased quite a bit. I'll pass it over to Kenny, but just as you probably mentioned, what can we do? It's an external kind of risk, but I'll pass it over to Kenny in terms of how we do that in portfolio management. Yeah.
Often it's looking for a diversified portfolio. I mean, which you have already. But I think looking forward, we've got this investment strategy review later this year. One of the focus areas will be to examine how much investment you would like to have in the UK. Now, that could be a positive or a negative, but I think there will be room for us to stop and discuss that later in the year. I mean, it's just so unpredictable what's happening just now. It's quite difficult to know what to do. I think I'd tend to be a bit more circumspect about investing in the US in future, however. Is it unfair to say there's political instability there? I don't know. Is it unfair? I don't know. But if you were a company looking to invest in the States, with a 10, 15-year view, how would you go about that just now? It's really quite difficult. So anyway, I could go on, but I think we'll have the opportunity later in the year to look at your exposure to the UK and also the US. But I do have that feeling that we need to be a bit more circumspect about investing in the US in future.
Kenneth, that's very helpful. Thank you very much. Any other question on investment risks? No? Are members happy to note the section of pension risk? Yeah. Noted. Lovely. Okay, moving on, item 9. Pension panel meeting activity, March 2025. This is just to note the minutes of the Pension Investment Administration panel held on 17th of March. Julian, did you want to say anything about this? No, I didn't think so. Okay, any questions about those minutes? No? So we're happy to note the minutes? Lovely. Okay. Now, just a question for process. This is the point at which we go into Is it, or did you want to do the McLeod bit and then go into private session?
Yes, Chair, if we're okay to do that, to do the
Yeah,
McLeod
yeah.
bit before we go into closed session.
Yeah,
please.
absolutely. I just wasn't sure. Okay, lovely. Right, so we're now going to move up the item 11 in the agenda to item 10. And thank you for the information that's been sent out of this. And it's about the Pension Fund Annual Benefits Statement McLeod Remedy. Who's going to be speaking? Is it you, Stuart? Lovely. Okay, Stuart, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to present the regulatory requirements, the additional content to the 2025 annual benefit statements to include the McLeod remedial information. It is also to allow the administering authority to exercise its discretion to include the remedial information in the 2025-26 benefit statements. Every year, national LGPS regulations require administering authorities to issue annual benefit statements to actives, deferreds and pension credit members within 5 months of the end of the scheme year, which is the 31st of August. Following the 2018 court ruling of age discrimination, called the McLeod Remedy, this year the regulations state that this information should be included in the 2024-25 benefit statement. The McLeod Remedy is a very complicated calculation. It's backdated 2014, and initially administering authorities had to gather information that hadn't been previously collected following the change of the regulations when we became a career average revaluated earnings scheme. MHCLG requires that the McLeod implementation in England and Wales ends on the 31st of August 2025. The statutory guidance stated that this information must be included in the annual 2025 benefit statements for any members with remedial status, also to confirm the remedial status and any remedial benefits to be included. The regulator has allowed authorities to exercise discretion to include this in the 2025-26 statements, but they must include a statement as to why they're not including it in the 2024-25, and it must be put to the board for their recommendations and comments. Due to the deadline being the 31st of August 2025 to issue these benefit statements, this was the next meeting that this could be put to, and it was only a last-minute decision for it not to be included. So my recommendation or my comments are that we are not in a position to include it in the statements for 2024-25, and we are asking for it to be included in the 2025-26. We will put a comment in the statement as in line with the regulator's guidance to explain to all members why it's not going in there. Any questions?
Thank you, Stuart. Yeah, I've got a question for you. On page 71 of the report, from Pensions Regulator, it says we expect most administrating authorities will be able to include the remedial service information in 24-25. Is that true or is it not true? And if it is true, why can't we do it if most others are doing it?
Thank you for your question. The regulator has stated most authorities are there. I know of authorities already who have published statements in advance to say that they're not doing it, so it's not just us. There are many authorities who are considering this option as well.
How many?
It's not something that's public knowledge at the moment, but I've seen two, I looked on two, one large authority in north of England and one of the home counties has already put a statement on their website saying they're not going to produce it.
Yeah, I mean, look, is it because your pension team is too overstretched, you haven't got enough staff to get all the information done on time, or is it just, as I say, it might be that statement, their expectation that they're going to, most authorities do it, is incorrect. I don't know. What are your thoughts, Stuart?
The main concern that we have is the risk of misinformation of the data to the members. Because the software has struggled to keep up with the complexity of the calculations involved, would need to be a bit of manual intervention and therefore the risk of incorrect information. So that's one of our main reasons we don't want this to go in the statement this year.
Okay, good answer. And also, you should also have answered, I believe, Stuart, in your defence, to say that the danger of missing the deadline, which is a statutory deadline, with the amount of work involved, would put the employer in breach of, or the pension fund in breach of its statutory
Correct.
obligations. So it is probably better that we defer and do it properly on time. But I don't want to answer the question for you.
No, I completely agree. That was another one of our my next concern, that we can't do it. We must send the statements out by law by the 31st of August.
Leo?
Yeah, thanks, Stuart. What are I mean, as a layman, what are the levels of work that's got to be done to get it right? And how many years do you have to go back to check?
So the level of work that has already been carried out has been immense. We're talking about, so when the regulations changed after the following the reformation of the pension schemes, the government put in a transitional protection for older members, and that was since deemed to be age discriminatory. So anyone who is in the pension scheme in 2012, between 2012 and 2022, which is the remedy period, they are potentially in scope. So it's not a matter of, it can't be everyone. There were certain criteria that you had to follow. And subsequently, I've mentioned earlier, when we went to a career average scheme, we didn't record certain information that wasn't needed under the new benefit structure. So the first period was getting this information from employers, former employers, and sometimes no employers. Just to give you an indication, so of all the active membership, we found potentially 21% of that population fell in that remedy period, but on doing the calculations, only 0.5% of those 21% actually had any remedial benefits. Similar figures with deferreds and similar figures with pensioners. So it's a vast amount of work, which the industry knows. It's a vast amount of work for a very small return, but we have to comply to the regulations.
Anne-Marie?
Thank you, Chair. Just to check, we are ready, or we will definitely make the next deadline, 25-26.
We will, yes.
Okay, available options. Option 1, do nothing and break the law. That's what it says. Option 2, that the administrating authority will exercise discretion, or option 3, the pension team work all hours of the day and night to try and get it done on time and might not succeed. Option 3. So I would suggest option 2 is probably the best. Are you happy with that, Leo, as well? Okay, option 2 has been agreed, and thank you, Stuart, for
Thank you for
grilling.
agreeing that.
That's what we like to hear. Okay, we now have to exclude, we're moving into closed session and exclude members of the press and public, of which we have none. My colleague here is going to turn off the live feed.